aspiring educators, and welcome to today's Explainer. If you are gearing up for your teaching certification exams, well, you've landed in exactly the right spot. Our goal today is super focused. We are going to completely master the core principles of child development. These are the foundational rules, the actual mechanics of how children grow, learn, and change over time. And look, getting a handle on these, it won't just help you ace those tricky multiple choice questions, though it absolutely will do that. It's actually going to make you a significantly more effective and empathetic teacher once you get your own classroom.
Okay, let's dive right into our roadmap for today. We'll start with what is development, then hit continuity and individual rates, uniformity and predictability, direction, specifically cephalocaudal and proximodistal, followed by the shape of development, and finally, integration for teachers.
But right before we get into the heavy definitions, I want you to just think about something for a second. Does development happen in a perfectly straight line, shooting constantly upward? Or is it a spiral? Just keep that in the back of your mind. By the end of this explainer, you're going to know the answer for sure, and you'll know exactly how to confidently tackle that concept on test day.
Section 1. What is development? Defining the basics. So, a really common trap on these exams is mixing up growth with development. They are not the same thing. Growth is actually a pretty narrow concept. It's strictly quantitative. Think about how a baby can just easily triple its birth weight in a single year. That's growth. And physical growth like that, it eventually stops at maturity. Development, on the other hand, is the big picture. It's a broad, progressive process that goes literally from womb to tomb. It encompasses growth, sure, but it also includes all the cognitive, social, and emotional changes a child goes through as they move from being completely dependent to becoming autonomous. So growth is just one measurable piece of the puzzle, whereas development is the entire lifelong journey. Moving on to Section 2, continuity and individual rates. Lifelong, but totally unique. The crucial point here is the principle of continuity. Basically, development never just hits pause. It's a continuous, lifelong process from conception to death. But, and this is a really big but for us educators, the rate of that development is not uniform. Not at all. A child might have this massive physical growth spurt in infancy, then kind of slow down in early childhood, and suddenly speed right back up in adolescence. Add to that the principle of individual difference. Everyone is incredibly unique. Just as an example, boys and girls often have completely different rates of development during early adolescence. And this is exactly why, as a teacher, a one-size-fits-all approach is never going to work. You have to differentiate your instruction because every single child's internal clock is ticking at its own unique pace. Section 3, uniformity and predictability, universal patterns. Now, despite all those amazing individual differences we just talked about, the overall pattern of human development actually remains remarkably universal. This is known as the principle of uniformity of pattern. So no matter where a kid is born, their milk teeth are always going to come in before their permanent teeth, right? Because of this uniformity, development becomes highly predictable. We can actually anticipate what a child is going to be capable of next, at least to a reasonable extent. We also know that development always proceeds from the general to the specific. Picture a little baby wildly waving their entire arm around. That's a general, whole-body movement. They're going to do that long before they can specifically use their thumb and forefinger to, say, pick up a single Cheerio off a high chair tray. So the patterns are uniformal, and that gives us educators a highly reliable roadmap. Section 4, direction, cephalocaudal and proximodistal, how the body grows. Okay, grab your pens because this right here is highly, highly tested. The principle of developmental direction. This principle dictates the actual physical pathways by which a child's body grows and matures. It essentially tells us the exact physical routes that development takes. And there are two distinct directions this energy and growth can follow. First, you have growth that pushes downward from the very top of the body, starting at the head. Then you have growth that starts right at the center of the chest, at the body's core, and pushes outwards toward the hands and extremities. Those are your two main directions of human development. So here are your two absolutely crucial vocabulary words for this: cephalocaudal and proximodistal. Let's break those tongue twisters down. Cephalocaudal development is longitudinal. It goes from head to toe. The brain and the head develop first, and then control slowly moves downward to the arms and finally the legs. Think cephalo like encephalitis, which relates to the brain or head. A baby is going to control its neck way before it can ever walk. Then we have proximodistal. This means development happens from the center, moving outward to the periphery. It goes from near to far, and from gross motor skills to fine motor skills. The spinal cord develops before the outer parts of the body. Basically, a kid controls their torso well before they can skillfully wiggle their fingers. A great trick is to anchor the prefix proximo to the word proximity, meaning close to the center. So cephalocaudal is head to toe, proximodistal is center outward. Definitely lock those in for test day. Section 5, the shape, spiral versus linear. And this brings us right back to the question I asked you at the beginning. Development is never a straight line. A child doesn't just proceed upward at a constant, steady, uninterrupted pace. No way. Instead, they make an advancement, a big leap forward, and then they essentially loop back. They take a period of rest to consolidate and strengthen that new development before they start moving forward again. It's a dynamic, back-and-forth process. Think about a toddler learning a new vocabulary word. They might use it constantly for a week, then completely seem to forget it, and then suddenly it becomes permanently integrated into their daily speech. Progress, consolidate, progress. It is absolutely a spiral. Section 6. Integration for teachers. As a teacher, you need to constantly keep the 4 domains of development in mind: physical, cognitive, social, and emotional. We often call these the PCSE domains. Now, the principle of interrelation tells us that these domains absolutely do not operate in silos. They are completely intertwined. Think about it. A child who is physically hungry or just exhausted is going to have a much harder time solving a math problem, which represents cognitive development, right? And because they're frustrated, they might act out with their peers, which then impacts their social and emotional development. The whole shebang is deeply connected. And all of this culminates in the principle of integration. The process basically goes like this. First, specific responses combine. Next, those physical, cognitive, social, and emotional domains interrelate. And ultimately, the child functions as one single integrated unit. The perfect example from our source material is playing badminton. To hit that shuttlecock, a kid isn't just using their physical body. Their eyes are tracking the object, their mind is rapidly calculating the trajectory, their legs are moving them into position, and their hands are executing the swing. All those domains fire simultaneously as one beautifully integrated whole. So we've covered the crucial difference between growth and development, those universal patterns like cephalocaudal and proximodistal, and the spiral nature of it all. I really want to leave you with this final thought as future educators. Knowing that every single child follows a beautifully predictable universal pattern, but completely at their own unique individualized rate, how will you use this knowledge to differentiate your lesson plans tomorrow? Embrace the uniqueness of your students, trust in these principles of development, and hey, good luck on those exams.